To belong to a place that no longer exists on a map is to live in a state of permanent architectural mourning. We find ourselves standing on the literal roof of the world, a junction of granite and ice where the Hindu Kush, the Karakoram, and the Pamirs collide in a silent geological war. And here we realize that for the Wakhi, the border is not a line drawn by a pen, but a scar carved into the soul. There are perhaps 100,000 of them left, scattered across 4 different modern nations, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Pakistan, and China. Yet they are a people defined by a single high-altitude corridor that the rest of the world treated as a mere buffer zone between empires. We see them in the thin blue light of the Pamir Plateau, where oxygen is a luxury and the wind carries the scent of juniper and ancient dust, and we begin to understand the central contradiction of their existence. They are the most isolated people on Earth, yet they have spent 2 millennia at the absolute center of human ambition. The fact that reframes everything we think we know about geography is this: the Wakhi did not inhabit a remote wilderness, they inhabited the busiest intersection of the ancient world, the high-pressure valve of the Silk Road, only to be rendered invisible when the world decided that oceans were more efficient than mountains. We look at the landscape and see a vertical kingdom of shale and silt. The Oxus River, known to the Wakhi as the Panj, does not merely flow, it thrashes through the valley, a gray glacial vein that dictates where life can take root. To survive here is to master the art of the vertical. We watch a father and son move their livestock, the long-haired yak and the sturdy fat-tailed sheep, upward as the snow retreats, climbing toward the yailoks, the high summer pastures that sit at 14,000 feet. There is a quiet, rhythmic desperation to this movement. If they mistime the ascent, the grass is still buried. If they linger too long in the autumn, the passes close like a tomb. This is the nation of the Wakhi, but it is a nation without a capital, without an army, and without a written code of law. Their territory is defined by the reach of a shepherd's voice and the endurance of a woman carrying a load of brushwood twice her weight. We sense the tension in the way they build their homes. The Hun, the traditional Wakhi house, is a stone and mud brick fortress against the cold, but its interior reveals the notion, the philosophy that sustains them. There are 5 pillars in every house, representing the holy figures of their Ismaili faith, but these pillars also hold up a skylight made of concentric wooden squares. They call it the Eye of the World. As we sit in the dim light of a hearth, the smoke curling toward that eye, we realize that for the Wakhi, the house is a microcosm of the universe. They do not see themselves as masters of the mountain. They see themselves as guests within it. Their survival is predicated on a radical communalism. In a place where a single rock slide can bury a family's entire winter food supply, the idea of mine is secondary to the reality of ours. The notion is simple. To survive the heights, one must lower the ego. But the world outside the mountains did not share this humility. We witnessed the arrival of the 19th century, a period that the British and Russians called the Great Game, but which the Wakhi experienced as a slow-motion dismemberment. We stand with the Mirs, the local chieftains of Wakhan, as they receive emissaries from London and St. Petersburg. These strangers carry transits and theodolites. They are obsessed with the notion of the border. To the Wakhi, the valley was a unified lung, breathing as one. To the empires, it was a gap that needed to be closed. We see the irreversible turning point in 1893, when the Durand Line and later the Pamir Boundary Commission drew a jagged line through the heart of Wakhan. With a few strokes of a fountain pen in a distant, temperate city, families were split. A shepherd who crossed the river to find a stray goat was suddenly an international trespasser. The mountain did not change, but the air around it became political. We feel the psychological strain of this fracture. In the village of Ishkashim, we see the river become a wall. On the northern bank, under the Russian shadow, the Wakhi were pushed into the Soviet experiment. Their ancient shrines were forcibly traded for the notion of the proletariat. We watch as the ancient shrines are closed, and the transhumance, the seasonal migration, is curtailed by barbed wire and guards with Kalashnikovs. On the southern bank, in Afghanistan, the Wakhi remained in a feudal silence, untouched by the 20th century, but increasingly abandoned by the state. The tragedy we witness is not just the loss of land, but the loss of movement. A people defined by the trail were told to stand still.
The moral contradiction deepens as we move into the mid-20th century. The Wakhi of the Chinese Pamirs, the Sarikoli, found themselves behind the closing curtain of the Cultural Revolution. We see the struggle of a grandson trying to remember the prayers of his grandfather, while the state demands a new liturgy of iron and grain. Here, the nation betrayed the notion by suggesting that the mountain could be conquered by ideology. We witnessed the collective reckoning in the 1970s when the Wakhan corridor in Afghanistan became a literal dead end. As the Sour Revolution and the subsequent Soviet invasion turned Afghanistan into a furnace, the Wakhi of the High Pamir, the Kyrgyz and the Wakhi, had to choose between their ancestral dust and their lives. We follow the exodus of Rahman Kul and his followers as they fled over the freezing passes into Pakistan. This was the moment the Wakhi realized that the roof of the world offered no protection from the floor of the world's politics. We observed the physical environment under this new tension. In the Big Pamir, the silence is so heavy it feels like a physical weight. There are no trees here. The wind has scoured them from the earth. The people burn yak dung for heat, a slow, acrid burn that coats the lungs. We see a woman in a vibrant red headscarf, the signature color of the Wakhi, kneeling by a stream. She is washing wool, her hands cracked and purple from the freezing water. There is no hospital within a week's journey. 1 in 3 children will not see their 5th birthday. We ask ourselves, what is the notion that keeps her here? Why not descend to the lush valleys of the south? The answer is written in the way she looks at the mountains. To the Wakhi, the mountain is not an obstacle, it is a sanctuary. The lowlands represent the heat of disease, the noise of many gods, and the heavy hand of governments they do not understand. They have traded physical comfort for a terrifying, majestic freedom. However, even this freedom is a fraying rope. We witness the final modern betrayal of the Wakhi identity, the betrayal of silence. In the last few decades, the world has returned to the Pamirs, not with armies, but with asphalt and fiber optics. We see the Karakoram highway cutting through the stone, a gray ribbon that brings the products of global commerce into the most secluded valleys of Pakistan's Gilgit-Baltistan. We stand in the village of Gulmit and see the internal fracture of a generation. The elders speak the Wakhi language, a complex Eastern Iranian tongue that carries the echoes of the Silk Road, but the youth speak Urdu and English. The notion is shifting from the eye of the world to the screen of the world. We see the young men looking at the mountains not as a sacred home, but as a barrier to the life they see online. The nation is finally providing schools and roads, but the cost is the evaporation of the very philosophy that made the Wakhi distinct. We stand at the turning point of the present, where the Wakhan corridor has become a strange, peaceful ghost in a region of fire. While the rest of Afghanistan crumbled through decades of war, the Wakhi remained largely untouched, protected by the very terrain that impoverished them. But this peace is a paradox. They are safe because they are forgotten. We see a village elder sitting on a stone wall, watching a lone trekking group pass through. He knows that his children are leaving to the cities of the plains, and he knows that when they leave, they do not bring the mountain with them. the notion of the Wakhi, the belief that human life is a delicate cooperative whisper in the ear of a cold stone giant, cannot survive the noise of the modern city. We struggle to understand the finality of this transformation. Is it a victory that the Wakhi are finally being integrated into the nations that claimed them over a century ago? Or is it a quiet catastrophe? We witness the death of a language that has no written form, a language where every word for snow or path or light contains the history of 1,000 winters. When the last shepherd stops singing to his flock in the high pastures, a specific way of being human will vanish from the earth. We are left looking at the maps once more. The borders are still there, firmer than ever, guarded by drones and sensors. The nation has won. But as we look into the eye of the world in a collapsing stone house, we are forced to wonder if a people finally gain the world but lose the very heights that define their spirit. Have they truly survived? What remains of a philosophy when the landscape that birthed it is traded for the certainty of a border?